Welcome, my friend. This is a Time to Care the Caregivers podcast. I'm Isabel Melgarejo, your host, and I'm always excited about having people in the podcast, and it's always a pleasure. But today, I have a very special friend of mine here in the podcast. Her name is Lynn Lambrecht, and I hope I got it right. So she's going to grade my ability to spell her last name.
I would say you're a 10 plus.
There you go. I aced it. How are you? Welcome to A Time to Care.
It is so nice to be with you and to meet all of you. Hi there. I am very well this morning. How about you, my dear?
I am very well.
I mean, life
I'm
is swirling
excited.
around pretty fast. So let's see what we can do to provide some value for your audience.
Actually, very excited because I want to talk. Why don't you introduce yourself and brag about yourself? Because I just skipped that part of the conversation.
Oh, you're putting it on me to give a quick rendition of Lynn's life. You know, that's always an interesting thing. Hi, everybody. I'm Lynn Lambrecht. I am the founder of The Living Planner, and that was stemmed from my past life, basically. I took, it's like a patchwork quilt, all the pieces of my past life I have put together a weave into what I do now with contingency planning, advisory services. And I was in aviation, so I've had the ability to live in 17 places in 35 years around the world. As a part of that, I was also a volunteer emergency team responder. So it wasn't my everyday job, but it was my volunteer job when we had an aircraft incident. And so that is what kind of heightened me into the awareness of how difficult it can be and how people really don't like to talk about or plan for the what ifs, especially the big what ifs. And so now it breaks my heart because at the time of an actual disaster, I mean, we deserve to grieve and we deserve to feel the feelings, and it makes life a little easier when we've had some of our ducks in a row in advance. And so that's what I love to talk to people and help them plan for now across the spectrum of the administrative side of life that we're never taught. We have no idea. And we have all these professionals that like blab in their language, and we don't know what any of that means either. And so we get a little hesitant to participate, maybe fully, and we don't know what to ask, and we're embarrassed at times, and all of those things. So I like to take all of that away and just say, all right, let's get really kind of practical here. And I'm a proactive cheerleader, and I like researching all the geeky stuff that the intricacies of our lives that we do on autopilot, and the professionals that can help us get through that. And part of what we talk about is also like that caregiving side, because in my life, each parent when was experiencing health changes and difficulties and ultimate decline when I was 8,000 miles away on international assignments. So changing my career, coming back to the States to assist and facilitate with that was a part of my life too. So I've walked many roads, and those roads have given me experiences and many lessons that I've learned. And I love to be able to help prepare others and share, whether it's an individual or a smaller business, and be ready to be ready.
I love that because I know for a fact that we don't plan. And there's always different levels of planning. There's people that have a reasonable plan. There's people that have absolutely nothing, and they are aware of it, and they just say that's going to be a problem that someone else is going to have to solve for me, and I don't care.
That was my mom. Yes, I mean, we all know various levels of planning, but the interesting piece to me is that I really like to bring it home for our today life, because the professionals can help us with, legal documents and financial planning strategies and insurance protection policies and all of that. And yet it's our day-to-day lives that I think we don't give as much thought to, because we do everything on autopilot. And when we're with someone, we share those responsibilities. And so you take this, honey, and I'll take that, and never the twain shall meet. And that's what trips us up if something were to happen. And so I like us to have firm ground as best we can, because the best laid plans of mice and men can get blown up in a heartbeat with legislative changes and life changes. But you know what? We have our natural disasters and stuff too. And on the fun side, maybe you want to take a sabbatical. Maybe, you want to go travel the world for a long period of time. Okay, how does life sustain itself at home? So, I mean, when we look at life as that beautiful gift that it is and appreciate it and just say, if somebody needed to help me or if somebody needed to step in, what would be needed? That's me. That's where I come in. And then I love gap filling and assessing all of that stuff.
Remember the first conversation that we had together? We were talking about planning, and I mentioned that my name is not in the mortgage.
Oh, and I had a fit.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
detailed, you guys. I'm really detailed. My siblings think I was dropped by aliens as a child.
And I don't think people, as I said, everybody has different degrees of planning. I don't think anybody has a plan B, or very few people have that plan B.
And I think sometimes we do have a plan B, but we also don't know what we don't know. And we also kind of, in some ways, it's a lot of things are really detailed, and sometimes we get kind of balled up in the detail and don't really understand and aren't sure what to ask, and we think it's covered, and all of that. Let me give you an example. Terms of service. When we sign in for an app or whether it's LinkedIn, I mean whatever it is, and they ask us for the okay, do you randomly click okay without reading it? Because if you
Never.
Good girl. But, I mean, I read that stuff, and I mean, people don't. We hit, "Okay, okay, okay, okay." Well, depending on what those terms of service actually say in the back end, they can own your intellectual property if you post to a certain channel. They will permit or not permit somebody to, step in and speak for you. I mean, it's kind of like, the companies all wanna wear underwear, and they don't wanna get slapped on the behind. And so they, put on really, really strong steel underwear. And so, we're the ones that have to navigate through that when things happen. And it's a pain.
Yes. And I don't think we read that. I sometimes read. Yeah, but you're probably the only person that I know that does
I
read
know, and even
absolutely
I
everything.
can skim sometimes too.
Yeah, like, there are times, this past Monday, we went to a spa and we needed to fill out, um,
Like a HIPAA kind of documentation thing.
yeah, and it was several documents.
They do. I know.
And you're just signing up. I just want to go into the pool and relax.
Well, and they wanna cover their liability. And,
Yes, exactly.
but, it's not always in human layperson terms. I mean, my parents used to, look at me when we were I finally got them to say, "Oh, yes," when I was gonna move 8,000 miles away. They finally decided they were gonna update stuff because I said, "I can't help you if my hands are tied." So I went in and was their layperson interpreter with the attorney, and the attorneys were laughing going, "Oh my god, that's a great explanation. Do you wanna, come and help with that?" And I said, No, I'm, moving out of country, and, you can remember what I said, and maybe you can speak a little bit more like us people." 'Cause, I don't know, I've sassed with attorneys for 35 years. It's just I like keeping it real.
So where do you think people really are really missing? Because, yeah, there's the obvious. You don't have a will. Well, that is an obvious
68% of
one.
American adults don't have a will. Okay.
But everybody knows that you should have one, even if you don't have one.
Well, but we get caught up in that wonderful paradox of time. We think we have plenty of it before it's needed, and currently we have none. So it's that lovely paradox of time. And I also really think that it's more of I I don't know what I don't know factor, and it seems so big that you don't wanna have to think about it because there's a mortality involved with that, or if not mortality, a disability that's attached to that. So it's talking about some emotional topics that aren't comfortable. But I'll tell you, one of the first things I did when I was considering starting what I'm doing now, which is completely goofy, I know. And I went to talk to emergency room doctors because I said, people in my family are physicians or dentists. And I'm just wondering when someone's coming in from an ambulance, how do you access their information? And, there are, things now that are a little more available, like we can have updates in our phones that basically it's called a medical ID, and we can have people be called and we can write specific information down. But they said that a lot of times the family members come in and nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's in really high emotion and they all have different thoughts and opinions, and they don't know what the person that's lying on the bed wants. So I think having those conversations isn't easy. And I think,
No.
a lot of it, yes, you're talking about a will. I'm talking about like the conversation of how do you define quality of life? When I asked my parents that, they looked at me like I was from a different planet. And my siblings did too. But I mean, I wanted to know. And it's like, how do you feel about things if at this stage in life or at that stage in life or at this stage in life? Those conversations are like the old dinner time conversations when we were little kids. And, my parents would ask, how was your day at school? And I would tell them. So now it's like, how do you want your days to be? And I was asking them to tell me. So I think in some ways the emotions get triggered so high and so hard that we don't have time these days to do anything. So thinking about all of this stuff, it's big, but it really can be normalized. And that's what I hope at some point where we can all kind of get and say, let's just have a conversation. It's not coming today, it's not coming tomorrow. But when it comes, I want to know how to respect you and how to respect your wishes and how to make sure that I'm doing what you want me to do.
So, what are things that people don't consider? One would be, how do you want your days to be? What are other things that people don't consider
If I'm in the
when
hospital,
planning?
if I'm in the hospital and I can't speak, what authorizations are needed for you, the person I trust and pick, it was those people, because you always want to have a backup to the backup. What authorizations do they need to speak for me? That's, I mean, if I'm there and I am in a coma, my bills need to get paid. Who have I authorized to take care of that? And how do I provide them with access? What are the actions that are needed to be taken so that life can run smoothly for me to come home? It's like I don't want to be bankrupt and homeless by the time I'm out of the hospital. Is, kind of my thought. So, what needs to happen in that interim should something happen? If we have a massive fire, and I just had one in my right outside of my complex a month and a half ago. And it happened fast, and but while I was on a Zoom call, I'm here, I get the alert on my watch duty that says, like, "Samantha fire," and I'm thinking, "Oh, crap!" I open up my curtain, there's smoke, and then the helicopters above saying, "Evacuate, evacuate now!" And all of the, fire trucks are coming, and I look at the Zoom person and say, "Bye, I need to evacuate now." Boom. And so, I close the computer, I have a backpack underneath my desk, I load my computer, I load my iPad, I load my charging, like my power blocks. I take my fireproof safe. I'm texting my neighbors to make sure that they all knew what was going on. And I proceed to my car. And on my way to the car, I see people standing with their children like it's a firework display. I'm saying, Mm, this is something that might impact if the winds change, the fire could come quickly. It's time for you now to gather important things and go. But what I found is that people don't realize even what are the important things. And so the way that I view that is if I were to come back and not have a place to come back to, what would I need to start over?
They stole my wallet
Ah!
several years ago.
That is evil. I was picked. I've been picked. I mean, I understand. It's a pain in the booty to start all over again.
And you have to start
You do.
over.
You do. And you have to prove yourself, and you don't have the identification piece to prove yourself. I mean, it's
Well,
like
you have a passport because you don't put that in your wallet.
you do if you're
But
traveling internationally and you get picked. Yeah, baby.
I had never put them together, my passport and
Oh, I don't either, but
my wallet.
but you know what I mean.
But yeah, but if you're in the airport and they steal your backpack, everything
You're
goes in
hosed.
there. Um, and you have to start from scratch. And it is hard.
It's
'Cause you have
lengthy and it's administrative hoops. It's a pain.
and you have to need it to have a backup because you don't have, at least for me, I haven't paid cash. I don't know how a bill looks like. I haven't seen one in several years. That being said, when you need to start over, it is painful.
Well, it is, but it's also that humble reminder of, do I have copies of things that are stored in a secure spot? I mean, whether it's a birth certificate, whether it's a social security card, whether it's your passport or driver's license or credit cards or debit cards, do you work permits, military documentation, all of that stuff that kind of identifies you. It's kinda like with the fire stuff, I mean, I made sure I had my insurance documents, my home inventory, things, because if, you gotta, like, prove to the insurance people that you have what you have too, it's a very we live in a land of, litigation, and so, because of that, we have to definitely keep track of the things that help identify and protect us, because that's what this is. It's how do I identify me? How do I protect me? What do I have? What are the extra security precautions that I have around them?
So, what are things that you recommend people having, and how do you recommend? Okay, so let's answer that,
That's a
and then
broad
I have
question.
another question.
Okay. What's your question? You said you have another
Uh,
question.
my first question is, what are the documents that you need to have? Like, and probably super secure copies in different places. And the other question is, what is your criteria to choosing people to support you?
Okay. I have what I call essential documents that, like in my brain. And that includes like all of our financial records. So things that, pertain to your bank or investments and credit cards and loans and taxes and employee stuff and all that. The other would be legal documents. The access and authorization, well, and I mean, other important things are like your digital security. I mean, we're online all the time. So who and what do we have online? How are we protecting it? Do we have like two-factor authentication? All of that kind of stuff. I mean, we need to make sure that we know about that too. Um, when it comes to medical information, I think like lists of if you had take medications and any conditions that you have and allergies. Who do you go to for medical care? Is there a healthcare provider? What about your dentist? How about your vet for your pets? All that kind of stuff. I mean, there are planning documents that are involved with that too. And then we have like our daily living. So, how do you pay your rent or your mortgage? How do you turn your lights on? I mean, are there, how do you have like your computer access and what bills do you have and, all of that good stuff. So, I mean, you're doing it for yourself, but you're also doing it for those that you love. So it might be children, it could be pets, it could be parents, it could be grandparents, so there's just a lot of different moving parts. When it comes to naming people that you trust to act as you and be you in those times of need. That is a real personal decision. And what's interesting to me is that, like, guardianship for a child under 18 doesn't have to be with a family member. It can be. But if your family members live really far away and the child's life is like ensconced locally with, support groups and sports groups and, all of that good stuff, maybe the best idea isn't to move them and have them be with, people who are older and may have other difficulties too. I work with a lot of young
Mhm.
people. And so, thinking of their parents, well, that's good. But then, is it? So, where's the support structure? Because they're gonna be going through a really hard time. Um,
They are strangers.
well, they might not be strangers, but they don't know the intricacies of their daily lives.
What I mean by strangers, my we just babysat my niece for a day, and we see her 3 times a year,
Yeah,
tops
yeah, yeah, yeah,
4.
yeah. So you don't know what's going on in their everyday life.
If I'm guessing we are not, I don't know if they have done it or not, but if something were to happen to her parents and she would come and live with us, we for one day, we were strangers. Um, we didn't know what she liked.
Yeah, what
The
food,
food
like her friends, her daily life.
for a day, it was good until it was dinner time and she didn't like anything that we cooked. And it was everything okay until it was time to go to bed. If we're putting, so you're, and the next day she was impossible because she went to bed hungry because she didn't like what we gave her to eat. Um, she stayed up really late waiting for her parents to come back from a wedding, and the next day she was miserable.
Well, yeah, because she was tired and hungry.
Yeah. So I'm just putting that out there. And one day, like, yeah, whatever, it was just one bad day. But if you're going to have those days and you're going to move a child with people with whom she or he, the kid, doesn't spend a lot of time, and then you put all these layers of complexity.
But the biggest complexity of all is that the parents aren't there anymore. And that's the emotional loss and care. And then if you lose everything else that is familiar on top of it, it's a huge emotional burden. So,
Hmm.
whenever you make those choices, just make them really carefully. And I mean, I've had clients who've literally called a bunch of their friends from like the mom's group and dad's group and stuff, and they had like a dinner party and sat around and started talking about it and called me from the dinner party. And I mean, I said, okay. Hi. And they said, well, no, Liv. And I said, honestly, each of you have a personal choice to make. Who's the good emotional caregiver? Who's the financial caregiver? Sometimes you want to separate those out because what do you want their lives to look like if you're not here to guide that? I mean, there's like a hope and dream side, there's a financial obligation side, there's like a daily routine side, there's like the whole piece. Well, the same with me. I mean, I still have, a hope and dream side. I have, all of that. So who are the people that I count on and trust? And I mean, I fly solo. So for those of you who have a spouse, a partner, whatever, great. but make sure to name other people also, because if something were to happen to both of you together, then what? So, you want to always just kind of keep in mind of, okay, who's going to be like the one that's the heart-centered one that, honors that piece, and who's the one that's financially responsible, because don't give people things that aren't in their wheelhouse. I mean, it's hard enough when you're managing disruption. So play to the strengths and have the conversations, and make sure to have backups to the backups. And as my attorney gives me grief all the time when I update my documents, because I'm like, okay, so Alzheimer's is in my family, and whether I have Sometimers or Alzheimer's, these are the things I want. And he's, like, oh my God, Lynn, people don't even talk about this, and you bring it up and make, like laugh about it. And I said, well, it's reality for me. And, who are those people that are going to be my people? My siblings, none of us have kids. So it's not like I have nieces and nephews, and I don't have children. So who on the younger side of the world would I feel comfortable in asking? That piece is still to be determined. I promised my attorney I would have something in play by the next time I update. So, but it's a big ask because I have handled it for my parents and for a friend, and it's a big job to like close out life. There are large administrative responsibilities that come with that, and there's that emotional side too, because you're grieving the loss, and yet you've got other responsibilities to care for. That's why the planning side for me really matters, because at that time of loss, if when you know that certain things are truly buttoned down, you do get to grieve. I mean, you get to like go through the pictures and create the videos and tell the stories, and have like in our family, like I have an Irish side, a German side, and an English side, but I favor the Irish wake approach of having people gather and tell stories, and have a meal and things where we can do that. And I did that with each of my parents, and it allowed my older siblings to fly in and not worry about it. And, we got to like tell the stories and share the stories and share the tears. So, there's a whole lot of life that's worth celebrating, and every day is a part of it. And if you can carve out just a little piece, and just to do little baby tasks, small bites along the way. I've worked with a young couple that literally, I did my little well-being checkup with them, and they said, okay, we know this is really important, but we're never going to do it. Life's going to get in the way. Will you hold us accountable? And I was kind of just starting, and I said, oh, do you want that? I come from corporate. This could be fun. And they're like, oh God. And I said, tell me, what's your time frame? And they said 18 months. And I said, okay, we'll work our way backward. And they went, really? And I said, you were hoping I'd say no. And they said, yeah, we were. So literally, we kind of just mapped out a roadmap over 18 months of the little things. And the culmination was for them to create legal documents and have those done. And but along the way, there are so many decisions and conversations to be made and had that, yeah, I mean, and when you can take a breath and just take a little bit at a time, it goes a long way.
It does, especially when you share it, because you break taboos that are explicitly out there, and you actually get to know the person that you love.
You do. You do. And I mean, I don't know. I know a couple I worked with, they had known each other since they were kids. And as we were kind of going through like the day-to-day kind of life stuff, and we were getting toward the end of life planning, I'm very attuned to that just because of the work I did on the crash sites. And so I planned a lot of different memorials and celebrations of life and things of that nature. And that to me is it's an important closure piece. And everybody doesn't want it or need it, and that becomes a choice too. But, hey, when I was asking them what they had considered, they hadn't really. And I said, well, I don't know if would like a church service. I don't know if there are special readings or songs. Are there people that you would like to talk? Are there special places where you like to go that maybe you would like to, and so, I mean, I'm throwing stuff out and they just, and they're looking at each other like, I had no idea. You like that? Oh, okay. So I think in some ways it's very personal, but it's also illuminating.
Yes. Yes, it is. And you find out things that you wouldn't know otherwise.
Well, and sometimes it takes a trigger too. So it takes a trigger if something happens to a friend or a family member to kind of jolt you into the fact that it may their tomorrows are not promised. I mean, I
Mhm.
always kind of my little tagline is we can't predict, but we can prepare because we never know. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's what they working the crash has taught me. I people woke up that morning, they had no idea that something that was gonna happen later. So yeah, I mean, seize the day, carpe diem, but also make sure that, in your days, people know what's important to you and what matters.
Yeah.
You don't want the courts deciding, because I gotta be honest with you.
No,
It's
you
costly,
don't
it's a
want
pain
that.
in the butt, and like, especially with little ones, if you don't document who is going to care for them in an official capacity in a guardianship role, the courts did I mean, the Department of Protective Services takes the children. I mean, they don't just hand them off to a family member because they count on you to let them know that family member could be trusted. That family member would be responsible. And it's not that they're trying to be mean, is that they're trying to protect the little ones. But, courts make decisions that, might not be what you wanted. So this is our time to truly express ourselves of what we want.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I agree. And if you want things your way, the only way to make that happen is
Formalize it.
yes.
And even if it's not with an attorney, and this is when I'm not an attorney, write up your wishes in an official document and date it and sign it. And if you want to get really fancy, notarize it. Just so that there is written record somewhere of the things that are important to you and how you would like things handled.
Yeah. Um, I often don't talk about this. I talk about my dad passing,
Yeah.
how it was unexpected,
Yeah.
and the complications of what he didn't have planned.
Yeah.
What I never talk about is that a month after my dad's passing, a very good friend of mine passed away. And he was driving, his sister was with him, and another friend was in the car. Um Both my friend and his sister passed, and the friend that was coming with them became paraplegic. And she had no plan at all. She came from a family with not a lot of resources. And the difference was that my friend had a life insurance as well as his sister,
Mhm.
which I'm pretty sure that was his dad's doing because he was in healthcare and
Yep.
he worked in hospitals all of his life. So I'm pretty sure the dad, even though they were old enough to pay for their own life insurance, he kept paying that. And I think she was the person that stayed alive was lucky enough that his parents decided to give her the life insurance money from both of the kids. Yeah. I haven't followed up on that, but if you don't plan, you never know.
Oh, I know. And a lot of things influence that. It can be a gift from a parent or a grandparent. It can be a benefit, a corporate perk of what happens. But the thing I'll give you a heads up about is when you have it for a life insurance policy and a disability policy through work, they are rarely transferable. So if you are no longer working there, then you have none of it. And it's an important consideration. I know being in corporate world for as long as I was, I had all those policies that were a part of my benefits package. But when I left, I couldn't take them with me. And that's when I secured my own. So the thing is, even if you are with a company that has them, consider disability insurance, especially when you're young, on your own. And I call that income replacement insurance. Because if something happens and you're in an accident or you're, like your friend, how do you pay the bills?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just that's an insurance that can be invaluable when something happens. If and I will tell you that the chances of something happening are fairly high. For a short term or a long term interruption. It's like 1 in
Is
4.
there
This is statistically what's going on. So 25% of Americans, that's
That's pretty
the
high.
most recent statistic on that. So it's just not to, and I'm the last person to ever want to like fear factor you. So I want to empower you and saying, okay, hold on. I'm making decisions now that are going to be with me to help me along the way.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience out there?
It's okay to be scared. It, it's okay to be scared and do it anyway. I would ask you and implore you not to use the fear as something to hold you back, but to actually work through and say, what is it that I'm scared of and why? And is it true? And all those other little crazy questions that we ask ourselves when we don't want to do something or we want to procrastinate. What's the one thing I can do today is always a really good question that I even start with. So like, what's that one thing you can do today? And you have people like Isabel, and you have people like me that are around that have been through things that are now trying to do things to help you. So don't make sure that you're willing to ask for help because guess what? We all need it. We live in some crazy times, and it's really nice to have other people who get it and, want to help you.
Of course. Where can people reach out and connect with you?
Hey, I think the easiest is my work phone is area code 951-400-5966, and you can call or text that one. It's often you're gonna get a voicemail or whatever, but I'm really good about getting back. My website is thelivingplanner.com. Yep, I'm on LinkedIn. Yes, I've got my Living Planner Facebook page. Yes, I have my Insta account, all of that kind of stuff. But honestly, the personal touch is probably best. So, um, there's a contact us on, thing on my website, or you can just send me an email at Lynn, Lynn, at thelivingplanner.com. But don't be shy. It's okay.
Mhm.
Reach out, ask for help, but you've got to do it too.
Thank you so much for coming over. This was such a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Good luck, you guys. Remember, breathe in and out. We get to live life. Let's have some fun doing it.
Let's do that.
Thank you.